Success. Okay, so welcome everybody, and good morning to those of you that are listening to the recording. And this is call number 5 of your certification training. And I encourage you guys, now that I've gotten through all the technological issues, that you guys turn off any other technology you've got on and shut down your cell phones and close your screens and everything else, and just be present to this call. So first of all, I want to review what it is that you were supposed to complete in the last week. Hey, how did it go with Dana? Did you guys have a good call with her? Yeah, good. Yeah, she's great. And I'm sorry I couldn't join you on the call. I thought I'd be able to because I was in between the sort of airport, you know, leaving the hotel airport and then at the airport, but I wasn't able to get on for more than like 2 minutes. Okay, so you were supposed to prep for your next interview and confirm with Dana that you had another client for next week, track your evaluations and follow up to get them if needed. You were to listen to and be prepared to discuss and share examples of the sacred gifts of encouragement and wise counsel. And that, and then obviously if you weren't on the live call, for those of you listening to the recording, that you completed your debrief write-up in our Facebook group. So what are we going to do today? So we're going to start with reviewing client interviews, and I'm going to be tracking. Now I'm set up in a little bit of an odd way, so I'm sorry I'm going to be twisting back and forth a little bit here, but I do have my sheets here. Okay, so I'm going to do it in order of these sheets, which I think will make it easier. And I'm going to start with Randy. So Randy, you have completed Abdullah, and now you have done Mohammed, and I sent you, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet, but I have sent you the evaluation back from Mohammed. So that is great. And then to complete on Mohammed, then we need the debrief for today. So I'll just guide you through some questions, okay? Now, let me make sure we can, so Randy, you're gonna, are you able to unmute, Randy, or do you want me to unmute you? Let's see if I can do it from here. It's like we need that music from Jeopardy, you know, the do, 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 do. Yeah, so Randy, I'm hitting unmute and it's not, I can't unmute you from here, so we'll move on to the next person. Oh, there it is. Yep, you got it.
There I am.
Got it. Okay.
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 Do you see a video of me?
Yep, can see you and everything. You're all here in all your parts and everything. It's perfect.
Hell of a deal.
Okay. Okay, so when you were reviewing the scores and choosing the gifts that you were going to review with Mohammed, was it easy to select them, or did you have a lot of scores that were the same?
Yeah, but I debriefed Mohammed with Dana actually last week.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yes.
Perfect. Okay, is there anybody else you want to debrief?
Well, I did 2 other, Hazem and Mohammed. Oh,
perfect. Okay.
Were you talking Abdullah or Mohammed?
No, Abdullah we're complete on. It's
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Abdullah we're all done on. It's Mohammed that
okay.
Yeah. Do you want to do Mohammed today?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So so in terms of his scores, were they easy to select the 5 you wanted to review?
Actually, Mohammed was had 3 15s and 4 14s. So, hello?
Yep.
Wow. 4 14s. So he was actually pretty easy to get a hold of. Quite an interesting young fella. I really enjoyed talking to him.
Did you interview in person, Randy, or
yes, I did. I've done everybody I'm doing in person, so it's not on the phone.
Okay, and so what worked in the interview process for you? What worked really well?
Just the fact that Mohammed actually was my 3rd guy, and I was far more confident. Not that I wasn't confident before, but I was more practiced in how I worked with him. So it was a lot smoother.
Oh, that's good. And
I, I think it was a lot smoother for them rather than just for me.
oh, that's good. So the timing of it, were you able to stay within the sort of 90-minute window?
Yes, we were at 65 minutes, and what was interesting about Muhammad is he's done a lot of tests similar to this, the Myers-Briggs tests and things like that, and he said that he wasn't surprised at any of his the answers that we came up with, because he kind of figured out what was happening as he was writing the answers to the questions.
Uh-huh.
So obviously he's a smart young fella.
Kind of figured out the pattern.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So is there anything that you feel you could have done to have a better experience?
I would say no. Muhammad's English was excellent. He understood what we were getting to. He's wanting to know who everybody else is going to be, in this team.
Yeah.
Because he's, a searcher for knowledge and a planner and things like that. So it was pretty good. He had a lot of questions for me about where we were going. When I asked him if he was interested in going the next step, he was very interested in that. And I said, well, the possibility is that you may or may not be selected, but I'll let you know.
Perfect.
And yeah, he was quite happy that we had gone through that program, actually. And I think he did discover some things about himself that he wasn't that became a little clearer. So that's a good part.
Yeah, really good. So for yourself, like on a scale of 0 to 10, and comparing it now to the previous 2 that you've done, or 3, I guess. So where would you score yourself?
Well, when I did Abdullah, I said, "Oh yeah, I'm 80%." Well, really, Abdullah was probably about a 60%. I think I'm up around 70 now. Just because I'm learning more about what I'm doing and so understanding that I need a little bit. Well, I need the practice, obviously. So that's good.
Good. So your next client, then you've got. I've got them written down here. So let me just check with you. So Abdullah is completely done. Mohammed is now complete. You've got Hazim, and
yes.
Then I have a Rhonda.
Rhonda, yeah.
Okay, so those are the 2. And have you done the interviews on them both?
No, Rhonda. I've got Rhonda and Lobna, Lobna, who's a lady copywriter that I'm going to be doing Rhonda and Lobna tomorrow.
Okay.
One at a time.
All right. So for Hazim, because you won't be able to debrief them all on the call next week. So if you could do the debrief in the group, in the Facebook group, and you'll see the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, the questions are posted at the top. So just grab those questions, paste them into a new post, and then just go through and answer each of the questions, and then we'll mark Hazim. Yeah, and so the evaluations I've got back, like I say, for Abdullah and Mohammed. Great. Yep. All right, thanks, Randy. Okay. So let's see. Estelle, you don't have anyone to debrief, do you, today? Oh, you're muted.
No, I only had to do one because I was recertifying. I did do another lady, but I don't think we need to debrief. I did post a little comment on it.
Okay.
On the Facebook there about she being an older woman, and it was quite a different sort of interview, but still quite valuable.
Good. Okay. All right. Let's see who else is here. We've got Mary. Hi, Mary. There we go. So Mary,
hello.
Hi. Do you have someone you want to debrief today?
I do. I have a lady that I debriefed during the week this week that I haven't debriefed online.
Is that Grace or Julia?
No, Julia.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, okay. So Mary, in terms of selecting the gifts that you wanted to go over with her, was it pretty easy in looking at her scores?
Yes, it was. And I did pick out 5 gifts. However, when we were discussing one particular gift, a lot of signs for another gift showed up that that was just underneath the radar. So we discussed that one as well. So we did do 6 gifts, and 4 of which she recognized herself and was very excited.
Good. And did you do it in person or by phone, or how did you do it?
Phone.
All right. So what worked best for you in that interview with her?
Well, it is sticking to the script again, but it was also kind of knowing the gifts well enough to be able to recognize when she was coming up with a different gift and say, hang on a second, let's backtrack a bit here and throw this one into the mix and see how you feel about that one. So the one that we threw into the mix turned out to be one, and 2 of the others weren't. So it was a fun interview, actually, because of that, it made it a little different to normal.
Yeah, and that's actually really excellent for all of you to know that that's going to come with time. It's going to come with time and experience, and the more you listen to the gifts and the more comfortable you get with them, that's exactly what can happen and often does happen, is as they're talking, answering one of your other questions, they're dropping a lot of clues or using language or words that is indicating that they're actually talking about something else, and that gives you the opportunity to, like exactly what Mary did, and just say, hey, you know what, this might sound like this, and flip your book open to that gift and just touch on that and then see what comes up. So and that often pans out to be exactly what it is that they're describing. So that's great. I'm glad you had that experience. Is there anything that you would have done
Me
that
too.
Yeah. Is there anything you would have done, Mary, that would have created a better experience, do you think?
I don't think so. She was really gung-ho, and so that made it very easy. And she was listening to me very intently. And then when I'd finished describing a gift, she would say, well, I do this, this, and this. So she had her ideas. Once I'd finished describing, she was right there with examples of how it works or how it didn't work in her life. So she was very good. That's what happens when you have 67-year-olds doing their gifts for the first time.
Yes, exactly. You can have very interesting discussions.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 0 to 10 for yourself, Mary, just in terms of your own experience, where would you place yourself?
I think that was definitely a 10 for me. I got quite excited when I found that, when she was describing facilitation and we were talking about teaching. It was like, okay, hang on. So she was a teacher all her life, and she didn't have the gift of teaching, but she did have facilitation and she had encouragement. So, the 2 things worked together.
Yeah, nice.
And gave her a good experience.
You take the time to just get yourself kind of grounded and centered before starting?
Yes, I did.
Good. And so your next, so Mary, you've completed more than completed what you needed to do, but so you're done with your level 1 people, right?
Yeah, I am. I've done 2 ladies. Good. And I'm ready for level 2 now, but that's a couple of weeks away, right?
Right. Well, we're going to start talking about it today.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Yeah. So great. And I just want to mention that because Mary mentioned the script. So I've been working with a client. I often don't have time to actually do the guided program with clients, and but every once in a while I like to do it myself. And I just did one this last week. So I want to give you an example of how it can go. So I pulled out the scripts because I like to do it exactly by the script, like we train you guys to do it, because it gives me the experience to do it. So it was funny because it was kind of stilted, because even though it's my words and I wrote the script, it's still, you're still reading the script, right? And then holding back from wanting to go, I could not believe how challenging it was for me to hold back from moving from script into coaching. And, into just moving beyond this process into the rest of her life. So it was really a great experience again for me to do it and to appreciate that, you guys come across those same challenges. And then also how the script really did work. And also some changes that, you know, subtle things, but there's some changes that, because as I do it myself, I think, no, I want to reword this or change that. It's nothing really too much, but it is, you know, at times some of it is a bit stilted. So as you get more comfortable with it, you'll see that it, you know, you kind of put in your own words. But what I did not do was get grounded. And I didn't do it before. Then I pulled out the script, and then I'm quickly reading the blue at the top where it said that. And I was like, oh, shoot. So it was just like, okay, you know, and it was really, really good reminder for me. Like I just stopped and I thought, okay, you know, what do I want? I really want a great outcome for this person. And the other thing that happened, that once you guys are certified that you can do, she's a minister, a church minister, and she had a study week, it's called. So it was her week off from her parish activities, and she was supposed to spend her week in study, and this is what she chose. So she wanted to do call number 1, do section 1, call number 2, do section 2, call number 3, do section 3, which you guys will learn in level 2. She wanted to do it all in 1 week instead of spreading it out over the course of a few weeks, which we'll be talking about later in this call. And that was a really interesting experience for me. So I'm really glad I had that experience, because when we get into level 2, I'll be able to show you the difference of how that can look and how you'll have the option to do that. For her, it was perfect. She wanted to do the accelerated version. And so she listened to the entire audio program, did 4 calls with me all in 1 week. But I charge a lot of money to do that. You know what I mean? It's not, because it's literally 4 hours of my time as well in 1 week, right? So it was, it was really good. Okay, so Adina, let me just flip over to your sheet here. Okay, so Adina, I'm the one who got confused with this because there was a Laurel and a Laura, correct?
Oh, yeah. My first person was Lauren with an N.
Oh, okay.
My second person was Laura.
Okay.
And then my third person I just did was April.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I know we're complete on Lauren, and did you complete Laura with Dana? Have you debriefed her?
I did.
Okay, perfect. And then, so today, do you want to debrief April?
Sure.
Okay, great. So how was it for you to choose the gifts? Was it pretty easy with the scores?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. She had the first 2 were very clear, and then everything else was a tie. So yeah, I just rolled with it. It was okay.
Good.
Yeah.
And did you do it in person or by phone, or how'd you do it?
Well, I did it in person because she's my next door neighbor, and so it'd be weird. Like, it was just, anyways, that's just how it went.
Yeah, good. Okay. And so what worked with you in doing it that way than in person?
Well, I found I actually studied more ahead of time. Like, I, re-listened to the audios. I took more notes. And I actually copied and pasted, instead of having the big gigantic booklet, I actually copied and pasted her gifts onto the separate document so that I wasn't flipping through 50 pages.
Yeah.
So I found that helped. And then, of course, following your script, which always keeps me on track. So
good.
Yeah.
And the timing of it being in person versus doing your other one on the phone, was it different for you?
Yeah, I mean, we went, I think we went the full 90 minutes, whereas I think it would have been a lot shorter. Well, it would have been shorter if we were on the phone.
Yeah, and that's true. I think you guys are all going to find that typically when you're working in person live with somebody as opposed to on the phone, it's just more challenging to not sort of chat, and there's environmental things that can be happening, whatever, right? So the dog runs in the room, whatever it is, right? So it is typically, I find that from our guides' experience, because I rarely, if ever, do live stuff, from the guides' experience, most of them find that if they're in person, it's full 90 minutes, if not more. They offer them a cup of tea, there's just that whole thing that goes with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
hospitality kicks in.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, is there anything that you feel would have allowed you to have a better experience?
Well, I'm not sure. I think it was challenging to be in person. And I think maybe if I had reminded myself, if I stuck to the script more, because it was very difficult not to teach, very difficult not to coach, very difficult not to encourage, and all of those things, because we're in person.
Yep.
And so it's like I could just feel and see everything. So yeah, I don't know. Being on the phone would have been better, I suppose, if I could redo anything. But yeah.
No, that's good. A really, really great experience for you to know that. And then if you do them if you do them in person, given your industry you work in and how you're going to use this in your team, you're likely going to be doing a lot of this stuff in person. It may just be adjusting, the setting or how you do it, or, you know what I mean? There may be just some adjustments that you can make that will work better in person.
Yeah, like maybe making it a bit more formal seeming, I think, than, I don't know.
Yeah.
Less.
Yeah, and it'll just be practicing and trying it. I mean, it's great that you have the experience of both, right? When you get to do them in person and by phone, you do get a sense of which is better. And it absolutely makes a difference what gifts you guys have, of course, you guys. So I have a lot of people who say to me, like, how can you coach people so successfully when you are not in person with them? And they'll say to me, because I really need, when I'm there with them, I can see this, I can feel all of this. The reason I do everything by phone is because all of that for me becomes a distraction. It's actually the opposite for me. If I'm with somebody, I pick up a lot of stuff that, whether it's facial expressions or whatever, that I then end up almost kind of reading into, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, and I sort of, and then my mind makes up stories. When I'm on the phone, I don't get any of that. So it's like for me, it's like a clear channel when I'm doing it on the phone. And when I'm in person, it's like there's a lot of static. That's the way I would describe it. For others, it can be the exact opposite. It's like if they're on the phone, they can't get a sense of what's going on, and they really need to be in front of the person to get that sixth sense information that they need in order to work with them. So it is really unique and different, and it is worth having both experiences to see. Like Randy, I'm hoping that you will take the opportunity, maybe, I know you guys are back from Egypt next week, to be able to do somebody on the phone, not somebody who's in your office sitting in the next cubicle. It's not going to work. But I mean, to have the opportunity to do it on the phone, to see if you notice a difference in it and how it feels. It just would be a good experience. It's not mandatory, but it would be interesting to do. So Adina, then on a scale of 0 to 10, where do you want to score yourself for this one?
I'd say, like, I don't know, 6. Yeah, okay. For my experience. Yeah.
And so your next client now?
My next client is Christina. Because I still have to do one more level 1, right?
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So Christina. Good. And so you've got her. You're going to be doing your interview with her this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. And Kathy, do you have anyone you want to debrief on this call?
No.
No, you're done.
I'm still waiting to hear back from my clients. They've been, while I was on vacation, they got busy and changed their schedules and all that. But I did send out some more invites this morning, just because I want to line somebody up for sure. I'm getting more and more excited about the level 1 and seeing how it can be applied in different things that I'm up to now. So, yeah.
So Bo and Cassidy, should I cross them off?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm still, it's still possible that I'll go through, one or both of them will respond. If not, I will let you know who it is.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. All right. When we get to, this is call, excuse me, this is call number 5. When we get to number 6, you still will do debrief. When we get to call number 7, even though some of you may still have level 1 clients to debrief, we move into level 2. So then your debriefs for level 1, if you still have some left over to do, get done in the Facebook group in the written form. Okay. So you still have the opportunity to do a live one on next week's call. So Susan, let's see, I've got Margaret, Lisa, Isabel. Is there one that you want to debrief today?
Just briefly, actually before I start. I don't know if you saw my message. I private messaged you this morning just to say I have to be off the call at 11. I have a funeral to go to.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. No, I didn't see that. That's too bad. I would have put you first.
Okay, no worries.
Okay. So Susan, I can barely hear you.
Oh,
And I know you have a soft little gentle voice. You're exactly the opposite of me. I'm always louder than I need to be, and you're nice and soft.
can you hear me now?
There we go. My goodness. Yes, that's perfect.
I guess
Okay.
my speaker, I've got a external speaker and it was too far away.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you.
Is that better?
That's perfect. Yeah, nice and loud.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so who do you want to debrief?
Well, I've completed with Isabel and Lisa, and I took Margaret through the process, so I'll debrief her.
Okay. Mhm. Sorry, I'm just going to ask, I'll just go through the questions. So in terms of selecting the gifts based on the scores, was it easy for you to do, or any challenges there?
No, it was easy. It was surprising. It was surprising to me. I think it's the first time, like, because I did this 4 or 5 years ago as well. It's the first time I've had somebody that didn't have any gifts 10 or above. Mm-hmm. They were all under 10. So that was just interesting to notice. Mm-hmm. But she had several 9s and a couple of 8s, or 3 9s and a couple of 8s. So I did those ones.
Okay. And so given that situation where the scores were under 10, once you got into the interview and you had selected the gifts you were going to do, did it make any difference?
No.
Exactly. So thank you so much for bringing this up. And also I don't know if I've brought this up to you guys before, and actually I don't even know if it's in my scripts, but I want to mention that we never talk about score numbers with clients. Because we certainly don't ever want to make them feel like, oh, you got this number and this gift and that number and that gift, because what we do is we put them straight into that state of an egoic, they go into that egoic place of then judging the numbers and all of that. And that's not what we want to do. And those number results in terms of so we would never discuss with a client exactly like what Susan just said. Oh, it was interesting doing your interview because you didn't have any scores over 10, and I've never had that situation before. Now, I know it seems a bit silly that I would tell you guys that, but I'm telling you that. And I always tell you everything because I've learned from experience. So just to avoid having discussions around numbers and all of that kind of stuff with them. If anything, the only thing you really ever want to say to your client when it comes to scores is, please remember that the questionnaire is only just to give me clues as to where to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. The assessment is only just to give us clues where to start the conversation. The reason we do all of these statements is just to help us decide where to start to have the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're trying to eliminate as many as possible. And it says that in the instructions to them, that the goal here is really to eliminate as many as possible so that we're left with a smaller collection, and then we can focus on those. So that is the purpose of the assessment. And most assessments online, in whether it's personality, whether it's even some of the spiritual gift assessments I've seen that some of the churches do, most of them are positioned to help you find out which ones you have. But I really prefer to position it as being a way to eliminate as many as possible, and then we're going to investigate this collection, okay? Because it's just a shift in the mind, that's all. It allows them to see it differently, and they feel differently about it than, oh, you're doing this assessment so we can see, A, if you have any gifts, B, which ones you have, what your higher scores are. Oh, you didn't, you're talking about that, but you didn't get a high score in that. It's just not the conversations we want to be having with them. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right. So, Susan, is there anything else that you want to share about that experience with your client that was different or unusual?
Well, it's the first time that I did it in person, and okay. I typically do it in over the phone or over the computer, over Zoom. But she really wanted to do it in person. And in the end, I think actually it was a good thing because she's a former colleague. And so I do know her fairly well. and she's a major multitasker. And she said, if we did this over the phone, she said to me afterwards, if we did it over the phone, she wouldn't be able to not multitask. And in person, she's very focused, like super focused. And we did it in a coffee shop, in a quiet spot in a coffee shop, and it was fine. But like you, Adina, mentioned, and you mentioned, I think we did go a few minutes over 90 minutes, like maybe 5 minutes. And I know it would have been shorter if we'd done it online. But it was good. She was able to give lots of examples. But I have a question. One of her gifts was the gift of teaching. Well, that's one of the gifts that we reviewed. And she's a teacher by training. And so she was really wondering how you discern whether that is truly a gift, or is it just, she taught for 30 years and she was very, very good at it. Mm-hmm. But is that something that she developed? Like, was it a gift that bloomed, or was it something that she trained in? And, how do you discern if that's actually a gift or if that's just your training?
So I can't determine that from anything you say, without speaking to her. But the questions I would ask somebody in those situations would be based on the attributes that are listed in the booklet, or go back to the audio and listen to it again and pull out some things there. But things like, what was most exciting for you when you were teaching kids? And if you hear a teacher say, oh, I loved it when I would see the light bulbs go off, they would get it. That would be a clue, because in teaching, it's all about that joy of taking some material or knowledge or information and being able to present it in a way where the learner understands it. The other thing about teaching is that, an inherent part of the gift of teaching is an ability to individualize the teaching and rise up to the challenge of having different kinds of teaching challenges in the room, as opposed to, well, this is my lesson plan and I'm going to teach it this way, and some are going to get it and some aren't, right? Whereas someone who has a gift of teaching can become very creative in when they realize, Tommy is not getting this, to be able to come up with a really creative way to do it. Now, in teaching school, when people go to school to become a teacher, they teach them those skills. So that's understood as part of teaching, that you're going to have to, at times, adjust your teaching and use, all kinds of different ways in order to be able to reach the students. So they do actually teach teachers in training how to do that, the skill of doing it. How she feels in doing that can help determine and distinguish whether she is using skills she's learned, or whether actually she loves the challenge of being able to be really creative and find ways for them to get it. But the big thing is that joy they have. This is the language I often hear teachers say is, oh, I just love it when they get it. It's like it just, it drops in, and that, it, even though the lesson plan you had or the way you were going to do it didn't work. Now, Estelle, you are a teacher and your whole career was in teaching in school. And I'm not even sure. I don't even know if I know that you have a gift of teaching or not. I don't know. But is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I remember doing the assessment the first time with you and was rather shocked that I didn't have the gift of teaching. I thought I did, right? But as I have had more experience with gifts in that, I realized that facilitation, encouragement, what was one of the other ones? Those things came up, and hospitality, because I always had small groups. I was teaching high school immersion, and I've always had small groups coming in. And, I think of parents' comments, somebody saying, well, my kid was going to quit, but now she's in your class. She's so much more comfortable. And I realized I made kids feel comfortable, and I encouraged, and we had fun. But to say that I had this gift of teaching, no. The more I look at the description of the gift, I don't. And I also ended up in counseling through the back door. And that was sort of anyway, that's another gift. But it's been interesting looking back upon it and seeing not having that gift, knowing a lot of teachers that probably didn't, but what gifts they had that still made them good teachers. You know, because teaching is a really broad thing in high school anyway. Yeah.
It is, and it's like nursing. Same thing in nurses. There's, in 30 years of nursing, like Mary, there were nurses who did not have the gift of compassion, nurses who did not have a gift of healing, nurses who had a gift of service. Some did not. Some were really high administrative type, and they weren't great at the bedside. It's the same thing with teaching. It's a really broad field where you can, sort of plug into and use different gifts differently. So Susan, the short answer then is, it is not, I would go back to her and I would say, focusing on whether she has a gift of teaching or not is not the issue. Focusing on whether she loves and is passionate about what she's doing is the issue. And if she loves it and she feels on purpose, it doesn't matter, keep doing it. If she doesn't, then that's where she could be a good candidate for you to work with through the whole program.
Well, she just retired 2 years ago, and which is one of the reasons I wanted to take her. I invited her to do this because she's not really. I mean, she's got kids that are still at home, but they're just about launched, and so she's trying to figure out what to do. She's very young, youthful, and has lots of energy, and so yeah. And so it might be some volunteer work that involves teaching or not.
Yeah, she would be a great client to go through the full program, because when they go through the full program, after they get to hear about all the gifts, which naturally brings some of them up to the surface for them, then when you go into the last part of the program, which is, okay, now that you know this, is there anything you're hungry to do? Like, is there something you want to do? So with this person, when you did the magic wand question, then what came up for her?
She said, oh, that's such a huge question. Like, and she closed her eyes, and we're at the coffee shop, and she just said things like, purposeful conversation, like meaningful conversation, collaboration. She likes being part of a team. She has the gift of service and planning. Like, she has those gifts. Yeah. And the one, I think it was service, or maybe it was planning, that says you something about taking charge, but you don't see yourself as a leader. Right. Yeah, she's and so so what came up for her was a sense of adventure, exploration, meaningful conversation, travel, collaboration, like a collaborative project that's meaningful to her. More peace. So she only gave me broad terms, and I think she's interested in doing the next, like doing level 2, because the other question that just let's see, there was another question. Oh yeah, this question. From this process and discussion, is there anything you feel now that you want to take action on, move toward, or change? And nothing concrete is, coming to her, but she knows she wants to do something. So I think level 2 will be really helpful for her.
Yeah. I mean, she's in the percolating phase. You guys know the chaos cycle, and hopefully you all have a copy of the chaos cycle. That's it's not part of the Sacred Gifts teaching, but if you don't, I encourage you to get a copy from me and listen to it, because it's not expected for you to take that understanding into the Sacred Gifts aspect of it in level 1 or 2. But for those of you that are coaches or doing any kind of coaching, understanding the chaos cycle is really important, because you're describing perfectly somebody who's in that kind of creative phase. It's just, I don't know, I could do this, I could do that. Nothing's clear, nothing's concrete. And when you understand where they're at in the chaos cycle, it can really help as well.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what do you want to give yourself as a score from 0 to 10?
Oh, probably a 9. I guess I would have, if I was to do it again, I would have tightened it up a little bit more. Like, yeah, just because we went probably about 5 minutes over the 90 minutes, and just, yeah, okay. It was good. It was great.
It's in the big scheme of things, you guys, when you're doing this right now, it doesn't really matter. If you are ever doing this where it's part of your income generating activities, then you become more mindful of how you're spending your time. You know what I mean? If you're doing this, for example, if you're working within an HR context and a company gives you 6 clients to go through as candidates for interviews, and you're taking 6 people through this process, trust me, you move through it much quicker.
Yeah.
You know, I can move through this pretty quickly to get it done. So if you were using it in that kind of context and you're being paid for your time, it's going to be different than sitting with a friend in Starbucks chatting about this and going through it, right?
I did the same thing that Adina did. I listened to the audios of her gifts ahead of time, and then I did a printout just for her.
Yep.
But I think maybe the what I would maybe do differently, I think I went through all of them, and it was just, I didn't need to go through every single one.
What do you mean every single 24
just
gifts?
like aspect, like every single
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so anybody have any questions or comments on that segment before we move into the reviewing our 2 gifts? All right, so you guys all know what your next step is if you've got another client to do. And for those of you listening to the recording, same thing. Please, 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 I can't say this enough. You've got to keep us or me informed as to what's going on. So if you're listening to the recording, you've got to post a new post, separate post. Don't put it in the replies because I don't find it. Put a new post telling me where you're at, if you've listened to this call, which client you're working with, your debrief, all of that. So just make sure you're staying on top of that in the group. Okay, so you were asked to prepare to discuss the gifts of encouragement and wise counsel, and we asked you to listen to the audios and review your notes, and then give you the opportunity to present examples of them if you have one. So we're going to start with the gift of encouragement. So just going through those key points that you have, these the key points of the gift of encouragement is you may find that people confide in you. They feel safe telling you what's going on for them. It's a natural coaching gift. You can see the potential in others. So there's 2 key aspects to the gift of encouragement. You guys all look like you're looking around for something, so I'm going to wait till you all find it. That's hilarious. Every one of you was going like this here. So let me just wait until you all got what you want to get. That's the teacher in me. That's the teaching gift in me. They are not present right now. Okay, you all got what you want to get?
I was referring to my notes.
Yes. All right, perfect. Okay, so there's 2 key aspects to the gift. One is that through your presence alone, that people feel comfortable confiding in you. And knowing the difference of that in your personality, meaning you do not necessarily have to have a warm, inviting style of personality for if this gift is present for people to confide in you, and it kind of just bubbles out of them. They're telling you all this information. So that's one key aspect of the gift of encouragement is people feel, for some reason, they feel safe, and that feeling of safety does not come from what you say, it comes from this gift within you. So it just happens where people will open up to you, or it can happen that way. It doesn't always happen that way. And then the second aspect of the gift is that there is an innate ability to see the potential in people. It's as they talk to you and as they share with you, it's like championing people or cheerleading people I'm not talking about a cheerleader personality. I'm talking about championing people or cheerleading people into that potential that they talk about or that you see. And often you can see potential in people that they can't see in themselves. This gift is very one-on-one. Okay, so this gift is really a one-on-one gift, and typically it will, it's not something that, if here's the scenario of in a group. If you have the gift of encouragement, and let's say you're in a group, let's say you're in a classroom, okay, you're a teacher in the front of the classroom, and if you've got a gift of encouragement, it's not like sort of encouraging the whole class, oh, you guys can do this. It is where in a scenario, there's like a connection that happens with one person in that class or one person in the group. And what I've seen happen, very, very interesting. I've seen this happen. I went to see a speaker trainer who was teaching a course on, it was one of DeMartini's processes. I can't remember what it was, but she was teaching this process. And she really had the gift of encouragement, not so much teaching and not so much knowledge. And so she was teaching the process, and we're all sitting in a room. There's about 30 of us sitting at tables in the room. She was up on stage. And so somebody would put up their hand and they'd say like, okay, but where I'm really getting stuck is I'm really having a challenge with, and she would come down the stairs and she would go right to the table. And she would stand right with that person and she'd get really present with them. And then she'd move into this energy, like this laser coaching, I call it, energy between her and the person. The rest of us are all like, okay, we're just all out here, out in the field. You know, we became absolutely evident. It was evident. We disappeared into the ethers. In that woman's mind, we did not exist. And sometimes it would go on for 15 minutes. And she would, but the person would have a massive breakthrough, and she would move into this place of pulling out this potential in them. So it was like this laser coaching. It is not a great thing when you're in, you're in a room to learn a technique, right? So she didn't have the gift of teaching. She had the gift of encouragement. So teaching the content of how to do the technique was not what she was able to do. What she did is demonstrate the technique through just watching her, how it all unfolded. And it was up to us to figure out how we would do it. You get the difference? As opposed to somebody who's teaching something kind of step by step by step, checking in, do you understand? She didn't have that gift. She did not have teaching. She had encouragement. And you could see she would go in, and then she'd go back up on stage, and then she'd give us a little bit of the content, and then somebody would put up their hand and ask a question. She'd come off the stage, and she'd go and she'd stand in front of them and move into this whole space of her gift of encouragement. So it's very one-on-one. It's a very one-on-one thing that happens, even if it's in a large group of people. So people that have the gift of encouragement might have the experience of being, for example, at a social event. And based on their personality, for example, they might be really comfortable in the social setting or not. Like I'm not a social setting kind of person. If I'm going to have to be in a social setting, what I look forward to the most is connecting with one person. So for me to kind of be the social butterfly and the hospitality person making everyone feel welcome, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a conversation with somebody and have a meaningful conversation with one person is much more interesting for me and meaningful for me than to be chit-chatting and visiting everybody around the table. This happened last night, right? I organized this movie night last night and 24 people showed up, and we were all in the lounge before going into the theater. And some people were like going from person to person to person. So how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I was happy to sit and have a conversation with one person, but a meaningful, deeper conversation with one person. Okay. So even if you're in a big group setting with the gift of encourage, you may find it more comfortable connecting with one person, making a connection. The gifts, all of the gifts are not always turned on. So it's not like every situation you're in every time you're with people that this gift is going to activate. You don't control it that way. It overtakes you, and this is true of all the gifts. The gifts will overtake you. The gift will appear if it needs to, and you can't really manage it. Because if you're sitting with somebody and they start sharing with you, you say to them, how are you doing? This is exactly how it can go down with somebody with the gift of encouragement. So how are you doing? What have you been up to? And then you don't have to say anything for 35 minutes. They just tell you. They actually, if you ask somebody, if you have the gift of encouragement, how are you doing? Be prepared for the fact that they're probably not going to say fine. Okay? So Susan, you know what I mean, right? Yeah. So if you have the gift of encouragement, you will get to know this, that the managing of it is your understanding of it is the only way you can manage it, that you get to know if I'm sitting with somebody and I say to them, so how are you doing? You know, it's likely they are going to tell you. So it's not likely that they're going to just say fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's more likely if they are needing that gift from you. Okay? If in the moment they are needing somebody that they can express to that everything isn't fine, then it may happen. Now, if they're not needing that gift of encouragement, then they may just say fine. So if you want to manage it, you've got to, you know, if you get on an airplane, if you have this gift, I mean, I do this, I get on the airplane and I will all but do this. If somebody's going to sit beside me, you know, I just about will almost go to that extent. But what I'll do is really make it look like I'm really involved in what I'm doing, because typically my experience is that if I open up a conversation with somebody, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours listening to everything in their life. And frankly, I don't always want to do that. So that is the only way that I would be able to kind of manage it, is to actually sort of, you know, and then there's other times where even if I do that, it happens anyway. And then I go with it because I know that in fact, it's what they need, right? So then I just go with it and I just, you know, I just allow the whatever's going to unfold to unfold. Okay, so the gift makes you a natural cheerleader, but knowing the difference between a cheerleader type personality, oh yay, you know, you do not have to have a cheerleader type personality at all. My personality is the furthest thing away from, you know, warm, fuzzy cheerleader kind of person, right? I'm very direct. I'm, you know, I scare some people, you know, and it's fine. So the personality is separate from the gift. And especially with the gift of encouragement, it might be somebody who's very warm. Susan is like, I always say to Susan, Susan's everything I'm not, right? Susan is like warm and soft and you know, and my personality style is very different. My personality is very different than Estelle, who is my sister, than Jacqueline, who is my sister, you know, so our personalities are unique, and the challenge can sometimes be distinguishing between personality and the gift. So typically somebody with a gift of encouragement will possibly hear things like, can I talk to you? They might get a phone call from somebody. So what are you up to? Do you have a few minutes? You know, can I talk to you? And then you may hear things like, I don't know why I'm telling you all this all the time. I don't know why I just told you all that. I mean, that's the one I think I hear the most, because they don't even understand what's happening. And what really gets me excited, you guys, is I love it when I'm in a situation with somebody who has the gift of encouragement, and I realize, and I'm like outside of myself going, why is all of this coming out of my mouth? And I realize, and I will say to people, oh my God, you totally have that gift of encouragement. And I know it absolutely, because it's an out-of-body experience. It's like all of this stuff is coming out of me, and because I understand this, I can literally stand outside of myself going, look at you. This person has a gift of encouragement, and you're just opening up about all this stuff. So it's really fun, and that happens as you know what I mean, as you move into this more and more, you can have those experiences. So I can tell when I'm with somebody who has a gift of encouragement, and I love it. And often it's people who have no idea that they have it. You know what I mean? They may not even know this, but I realize it in the moment. And so I have found myself saying, I can't believe I'm telling you all this. And then I say, but I know exactly what's going on. So those kind of phrases, can I talk to you? Do you have a few minutes? I just need to talk. I've never told anybody this before. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Those are all the types of phrases that, you know, may end up coming up. Now that's more in a non-formal professional coaching scenario. In a, you know, if you have the gift of encouragement and you are a coach, or like me, a shift disturber, or whatever you want to call it, then obviously people are paying you to spend time with you. They're going to do that. It's not like this, oh, I can't believe I'm telling you this. It's like the whole idea of us being together is for you to get this stuff off your chest or whatever it is. I'm talking about more in a just a sort of a casual setting or conversation where you might hear those kind of comments. So the kinds of jobs that might align with the gift of encouragement, if we were to look at it in complete isolation, which is always the challenge, to be able to look at the gifts in total isolation from each other, because we're often there's several gifts in that person plus their personality, but to look at it in isolation, if that's their most prominent gift that is the most compelling to them, then it can be anywhere. It can happen anywhere. So they could be they could be working a job, let's say as a nurse, okay, so, or a teacher. So let's say in that kind of profession where they have a gift of encouragement. It may not be part of their job description as a nurse, but it certainly can happen where they go into a room and they say to a patient, hey, how are you doing this afternoon? Or how are you doing this morning? How was your night? And I used to get this all the time. They would start to cry. And I cannot tell you guys how challenging it was as a nurse to have a gift of encouragement when you've got 8 patients to look after and they all need bed baths and they all need their bandages changed and they all have families that are phoning when somebody says, they start to cry and they just need to talk and they just need somebody to sit with them and be present to them. So it was interesting as a nurse because what I would have to do from a professional perspective is call the chaplain who had time to come and sit with them, or to call the social worker who would have time to come and sit with them, or try and carve out a bit of my day to go sit with them. But mostly I had to hand it off to somebody else who had the time and who it was part of their job description. And I used to have job envy. I used to think, I want to be the chaplain that comes and sits with them and listens to them. This was all before I understood about sacred gifts. I didn't even understand that why that part of the job felt more compelling to me. So it doesn't have to be part of the job description, but typically no matter what the job is that the person has, they will find those kinds of things is what gives them the most joy. So I spoke to a woman recently and she's a receptionist in a busy law office. And I said to her, so what do you love most about, she's like, it's a job, And I said, but what do you really love about it? What keeps you there? And she says, what I love about it, she goes, the lawyers or sometimes some of the legal assistants or whatever, they just need to talk. And she goes, I love that. Or she said, sometimes the clients come in and, and she said, just getting to talk to them and listen to them and listen to their stories or listen to what's going on. And one of her gifts is encouragement. So the job setting is a receptionist in a law office. It's not going to likely be in the job description when she's hired for the job, but for her, what she loves is that. And what's happening in that moment is her gift of encouragement is being called upon. And that's what makes the job for her satisfying. It had nothing to do with answering the phone or filing papers. Most of her job is admin work, and she does have a gift of service. So she can do all that, she doesn't mind doing the tasks, but it's those meaningful conversations that really work for her. But if somebody's looking for a job where the gift of encouragement is going to be number one, typically you're going to see that in a coaching type of setting. So that can be an athletic team coach, and which is really where the language of coaching came out of. It used to be when you talked about a coach, your mind would think sports. Nowadays, you talk about a coach and you're never really sure. Are you coaching Little League? Are you coaching people? Is it life coaching? Is it business coaching? So that word coach has, kind of been brought into different areas, but that's all around that gift of encouragement. So an athletic coach, a life coach, a business coach, a 911 operator. So a 911 operator with a gift of encouragement, you can imagine could be very different for somebody calling in who, actually I just met with somebody yesterday whose wife died on Saturday. He went, walked the dog, came home, found his wife dead on the couch. And so he, horrible scenario, had to do CPR while he's talking to 911 operator. And the 911 operator is saying to him, you can do this. I know you can do this. You can do this. Here's what you need to do. Put the phone on speaker. You need to start CPR. You can do this, right? So very different scenario. That 911 operator may or may not be, they may have the skill set to do it, but he could feel it coming through the phone. He wants to meet that person. Like that person for him was his lifeline. And when she was saying, you can do this, he could feel it. Okay, I can do this. So it's not part of the 911 dispatch operator job necessarily, but if that's their gift, that may be what comes out the most. People who are on the 811, we have a line up here called 811, which is dial a nurse, I think it's called, or something, where anybody, you know, so you've got a young mom with a baby and she's stressed and the baby's got a fever, you know, if they call that line and they get a nurse on the other end who has a gift of encouragement, they're more likely to feel that come through of, you know, I can do this. It's okay. I can do this, right? That's the sense they get from somebody with the gift of encouragement. I can do this. You know, I'll get through this. I can do this. So, you know, the teachers with the gift of encouragement, great example, might not be so much, and we've talked about this in the workshop, it might, in kindergarten, it might not be so much a gift of teaching that is essential, that creates a great experience, but for little kindergarten kids that are scared going to school for the first time, having a kindergarten teacher with the gift of encouragement and hospitality, making them feel, like Estelle was saying, making them feel comfortable in the classroom and making them feel like it's okay to be there and it's safe and they'll be okay, and there's a teacher who can listen to them and while these little kids are chatting and whatever. So just try and take it outside of the coach realm and know that it can be anywhere. You'll spot it anywhere. Okay, so for you guys, do you have any experiences, examples, comments? Do any of you have the gift of encouragement? You feel that you have the gift of encouragement? All right, Kathy, so how does it come up for you?
This is probably my strongest or the most active for quite some time, actually, since I discovered it, and before that, of course. But one of the things that I have come to realize is that because we are a confidant and because people feel safe with, I mean, I hear all kinds of things from people who they're sharing information that are really sensitive. It's very personal, it's very sensitive. And that aspect of being a confidant, it's really important for us to emphasize that whatever they're sharing with us is confidential, and that it doesn't go beyond that. And often what will happen, I mean, with anybody that I work with, coaching clients or counseling clients, I begin with this: everything that we talk about is confidential. It doesn't go beyond here. And a lot of times, because I have this gift, they just go, well, yeah, I just assume that. They just feel it. They feel like it's safe. But it's important, especially as professionals, in a professional capacity, but even in a personal capacity, that we really honor that confidentiality, and it doesn't go beyond, what they talk about doesn't go beyond and doesn't get discussed with somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, I think most people who coach professionally probably have that built into their agreements where, yes, there is a confidentiality. If you take it outside of that realm, that's a great point in terms of people who have the gift of encouragement typically have way more information on people than other people do. It just happens, right? So whether it's within the professional realm of coaching or it's just somebody you're working with or somebody you meet on the street or whatever, typically somebody with the gift of encouragement has a lot more personal information that they know about other people. And then it's based on their personality and their character. So people can have a gift of encouragement, lack character. So they may have a lot of information on people and they may use it against them. A detective in the police force, a detective with a gift of encouragement is, I can guarantee you, is more likely to get a confession than somebody who doesn't. And there is a detective, they did a show on him that he had more confessions than any other detective, and they couldn't figure out why. And I watched the show and I thought, I know why. He would sit across from these people and he would just sit with them and they would start to talk. And they couldn't figure out, they studied this guy, they'd watched the videos, they're trying to figure out what it is he was doing, because most of the time he wasn't talking, and the person in custody was. I'm watching this thinking, that guy has a gift of encouragement, right? So it can be, when the context can be, the character of the person, the container that it's within, all of that can, exactly to your point, Kathy. Okay, Adina, you had your hand up as well, so that this is a gift that you relate to?
Yeah, I think it's the same in terms of just people telling you things that you're shocked to hear, and with little encouragement. So certainly with the women I coach, but even just before that, just with people you might not even know very well, and your airplane example or whatever. Yeah. And I always find it to be, it's an honor. And sometimes it's shocking of like, oh gosh, like I feel like I shouldn't really know this, but okay. So early on, I didn't really know what to do with the information until I just clued in of like, oh, I'm here holding the space. So, and that's all it's all about really, is the space.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. If somebody says to me, because in the workshops, we used to hear all kinds of examples. If somebody says to me, I don't like having this gift because I feel really burdened by all the stuff they're telling me, that's not a way to distinguish whether somebody does or does not have the gift. What that may speak to is that they, A, don't have an understanding of it, or B, it feels burdensome because they feel like they have to solve stuff, right? They feel, and so the difference between the gift of encouragement and the next one we're going to talk about, Wise Counsel, they are very different. With the gift of encouragement, there isn't any advice necessarily needed at all. So somebody who has a gift of encouragement and wise counsel, the two may move from the listening and offering solutions. That it may go back and forth, it may be more fluid, but somebody who has a gift of wise counsel and doesn't have the gift of encouragement, if somebody starts sharing a problem or a concern, they're apt to go straight to solution. And the person may not need that. That typical scenario they describe about a husband and wife where the husband comes home from work or the wife comes home from work and just wants to talk about their day, and the other person wants to solve it. Well, why don't you tell your boss this, and why don't you do that? And it's like, that's not what they're looking for. They just need to move that energy, right, to get it off their chest. They're not looking for a solution. So the person with the gift of encouragement in isolation without the gift of wise counsel is not, they don't need to feel burdened with how to solve this stuff, because that's not what the person is looking for. If the person is looking for the gift of wise counsel, which that will segue into that now, typically what they'll be saying is, can I ask you something? Not can I tell you something? Can I ask you something? Can I get your advice? Can I run something by you? Then they're more looking for your input on it. Okay, with the gift of encouragement, it's not so much about getting your advice or feedback on it. It's that they need to move it in order for it to be healed or to shift it. Mostly it's to shift it. They need to move it. They need to get it off their chest. That's the expression, right? To get it, I need to get something off my chest. In preparing for the trip to Italy, I've been studying the lives of saints whose towns we're going to be going into. And one of them is Padre Pio. And Saint Padre Pio, who only died in 1968, is known as, they refer to his gift as a confessor, and that he heard the confessions of over 1 million people, and that people were healed in that confessional. And to this day, after he's died, people go and they slip notes in that confessional is still there, and people slip notes underneath, and he's now seen as a saint in the Catholic Church. That's what likely this is what the gift was. And he also absolutely shows indications of healing, other gifts, but that people came to him to confess. So hearing confessions is part of the job description of a Catholic priest. Whether or not they have a gift of encouragement is not the distinguishing factor, but the ones who do, people may come out of confession already feeling healed versus going into confession because it's something you do because you're Catholic. All right. So he, as a confessor, likely had that gift of encouragement. So in Wise Counsel, it's all about solution oriented. It's people coming to you. They're confused. They don't know what to do. They have a question. They have a problem. So with Wise Counsel, it is problem centered. All right. So it's the practical application of knowledge, helping other people make good decisions. You're a problem solver. You're solution oriented. You can make an excellent advisor, consultants, people who are advisors. If you don't have the gift of wise counsel, I think, oh my God, who would do that if you didn't have a gift of wise counsel? Because it would be advice. If you don't have the gift of wise counsel, your advice is based on your own experience. Okay. If you have a gift of wise counsel, you don't necessarily have to have had the experience to be able to offer a solution that is perfect for that person, as if you were walking in their shoes and seeing the problem through their eyes. If you are a consultant, okay, let's say you're a consultant, typically every consultant I have spoken to has the gift of wise counsel. But if you're a consultant on engineering in buildings, you're also going to need to have the knowledge of that. It's not like somebody's going to come to me with the problem that they don't know how much weight the studs in the walls can support. I wouldn't have a clue. That's not the kind of problem that I'd be solving. But somebody who has the gift of wise counsel, typically the experience is that they love solving problems. So in terms of job description, that you might look at if you're looking at this gift in isolation is anywhere where people can solve problems. And that's the wording that you will typically find when you're working with clients. What did you love most about your job? That's my favorite question for anybody on anything, if I want to know what their gifts are. So what did you love the most? Don't tell me about the job description. What did you love in that job? And if you hear somebody say, I loved solving problems, you're likely looking at this gift. So who on the call here thinks they may have a gift of wise counsel? Kathy? Yeah. Estelle? No? Yes? Yeah. Randy? Yeah. Okay.
No, I just wanted to say that I loved the fact that I realized I don't have it because in the past few weeks, this is the universe right in my face. People have been dropping in and telling me their problems. I have a good friend who never pops in, phoned me this week and say, can I just drop by after work? And she sat on my sofa for an hour and a half, went through her whole summer scenario of having to make huge decisions, moving, new job, blah, blah, blah. And all I kept thinking is, I should put in some advice here. That's why she came. And then I'd say, nope, shut up. You don't have the gift of wise counsel. You just read the description. You don't have any advice. Shut up and keep listening. And I nodded and smiled through the whole thing. And she laughed and said, that was great. Let's get together this Saturday with another friend of mine who has the gift of wise counsel. And I thought, that's great. I'll sit there and I won't have to give advice. So it was hugely helpful. And like I say, I never, as a counselor, I think back, I was never good at giving advice. I just listened to kids and they'd come in and they'd unburden. So anyway, hugely helpful to know that I don't have this gift.
And that you don't have to put yourself in a situation of feeling burdened with giving advice. That
exactly.
Is really
I should be giving advice. Nope, I don't have to.
Yeah, and then flipping that to somebody who has the gift of wise counsel and doesn't have the gift of encouragement, when you understand that subtlety too, where the drive is to want to give advice when the person just wants to be heard. And that in that scenario, the advice giver, for them to keep their mouth shut is really challenging. Because then it's not, I should be giving advice. It's that, I know what you can do to solve this. And they're not looking for a solution. They're looking to be heard. So it's that play between the two. For me, encouragement, wise counsel, and challenge are the three gifts that I have that are part of the work that I do with my clients, those three. And I don't have to manage, when I'm on calls with people, I don't have to manage it in any way, shape, or form. It's never the same. And sometimes it's challenge and wise counsel. Sometimes it's encouraging and challenge and wise counsel. And I can shift really quickly. I mean, I can really be in that place of challenging, and I will sense that is not what they need. And I shift it to, tell me how you're feeling. And then that's what they need to do, is just talk through all of it, right? So I don't really have to worry about managing it. Now that I understand it and I allow it to flow and my intention is for the best outcome, those gifts just do what they need to do. And I'm just there. I'm just there as the vehicle through which the gifts can work. So the more you open up to your gifts, and the more you relax into them, and the more you trust in the gifts themselves, and the more you allow them to work in you, the less work you have to do with it. They just kind of do all the work, which is nice. Okay, any other questions specifically of the distinction between encouragement and wise counsel? Do you guys feel pretty clear about that? Yeah? Okay. All right, so we're going to shift gears a bit here, and we're going to move into taking a look ahead at what level 2 is going to look like. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to give you kind of a bird's eye overview of the level 2 program. You don't really need to take a lot of notes while I go through this, because it's just like level 1. You're going to get it all. You're going to get all the step-by-steps. You're going to get everything you need to do it. But those of you that are note takers, feel free. So I'm going to give you kind of a bird's eye view overview of the level 2 program, and give you a little bit more context in regards to the invitations that you'll be sending out over the next few weeks to get clients working with you in level 2. So we recently started doing this a bit earlier in the program. We used to leave it a little bit later, but really when you see the commitment that your level 2 clients are making, you really do want to give them enough time to make that commitment. And also you want to be able to get your invitations out to enough people so that you can get the number that you need in order to complete it. So even though you're not going to be working with clients using the level 2 process for a while yet, you are going to need to send out the invitations in the next 2 weeks in order to start planning ahead so that you have clients ready to go when you are ready to start level 2. Does that make sense? Nod your heads. Yes? No? Okay. So in level 2, you work from a checklist template just like you did in level 1. So it looks different, but it's the same system. You do a step, you check it off, you do a step, you check it off. The process is different, however, in that it's different in how it's structured and systemized from level 1. It's a different process, but the template, that checklist you use is that same format. You complete an activity, check it off. So in level 2, those of you that are going through certification for the first time, you're going to be working with 6 clients minimum, okay? And we will need to receive a minimum of 6 evaluations that indicate that you have completed on 6 people in order for you to complete your certification. You cannot start level 2 anyway. Like, you're going to do this part, the invitation, but you can't start working with clients in level 2 until you have fully completed your level 1. All right, so that's true for those of you recertifying. You must complete on 1 person. For those of you recertifying, you've got to complete that 1 person in level 1 and have the debrief and have the evaluation done before you can move on to level 2. For those of you that are new, Randy, Adina, Shannon, and Yvette, you 4 have to work with 6 clients, and you must complete your level 1, your 4 level 1 people, totally debriefed, evaluations in before you can start working with level 2 people. Okay, so the minimum is 6, but you can do more than 6 clients in level 2. And what happens is, if your evaluations indicate to me that you haven't followed the process or you haven't grasped the process or the system by the end of your training, then I may ask you to work with another client, and I may just then have to kind of work with you a bit more closely. That doesn't typically happen, but it's possible it could happen. So in level 2, there are 2 separate checklists or templates that you're going to be working with, and I will be sending you those documents so you'll be able to see them before we review them in call number 7. So I'll be sending them to you probably sometime next week. The only thing I'm going to send to you today in regards to level 2 are the invitations. Okay, so there's 2 separate checklists, because in level 2 you have to work with 1 individual at least and take them through the full level 2 process, and you must work with a group and take them through the full level 2 process. For those of you that are recertifying, you can do whichever you want. I don't care if you want to do 1 person, 2 people together, 3 people, it doesn't matter, but you've got to take somebody through the process. So in level 2, there are 2 separate checklists, because there is 1 created for if you're working with an individual, and there's 1 created if you're working with a group. There are 2 sets of scripts in level 2, because there is 1 whole script if you're working with an individual, and there's a separate script if you're working with groups, because you have to manage it differently if you're working with a group than you are an individual. So all of you that are new to the certification, you must take one person through the individual process at least, and you must do a group, and a group is 3 people or more. So because you need a minimum of 6 people to complete, it might look like this. It might be that you do one individual and then you do a group of 5, and that would be your 6 people. Some of you, especially those of you with the gift of encouragement and who do not have a gift of facilitation, you may find that the group idea is not really compelling to you, but you've got to have the experience anyway. After you're certified, if you decide you only ever want to work with people one-on-one, that's fine, but I need to know that you know how to do both individuals and groups, so that if you're in that scenario, you know what to do. So your clients, this is how it goes. Your client that you're going to be working with, whether they're an individual or a group, is going to receive the digital online program. So we're going to show you exactly how you come into our back office and you get that program, and you put in their information and the program is going to get sent to them. So whatever client you work with, individual or group, every single one of them will be sent the digital online program. And how that happens, don't worry about it. You'll learn all that later. And so what happens in level 2 is they actually go through the audio program, and some of you yourselves have been the client working with a guide doing this. Adina, you did, correct? Yeah, Adina and Shannon, I know that she did as well. So what happens is the client gets the audio program. First, they do call number 1 with you to set them up for success. Then they listen to section 1 of the audio program. Then you do a call. They listen to section 2 of the program. You do a call. They listen to section 3 of the program. You do a call. This is a much more comprehensive coaching style program that spans over 3 weeks. Okay. What I was referring to earlier when I was working with that church minister is she had to do it in a 1-week period. And that's why she literally, we did a call, she'd do section 1, we do a call, and we compressed it into 1 week. Once you are certified, you can have the option of doing that. You can compress it into 1 week, 2 weeks, but you cannot go beyond 3 weeks in the program. It's laid out so that if somebody is working with a guide, it's laid out to run over 3 weeks. If you go beyond that, the reason I say you don't want it to stretch out longer than that is our experience has been the momentum is lost. Kathy, it's exactly the experience you've had. You start the training, then you go on holidays, you come back, the momentum is lost, you kind of got to rebuild. So in level 2, the maximum we suggest that the program spans is 3 weeks, but you can compress it tighter if you want to, if they want to, and if you can make it work in your schedule. So, yeah, that first call is just setting them up for success, and all of the program that all of the documents you have will guide you through exactly what you'll be doing step by step. But your main responsibility as a guide in level 2 is your responsibility is to conduct these weekly sessions with your clients using the scripts that we provide, whether it's an individual or a group, and to span that program over the 3 weeks. So if you guys don't have a lot of time and you want to get your certification done, I would suggest you do one individual and put the rest into a group. Because imagine if you did all individuals, let's say, and you did one over a month and another one over a month, another one over a month, it's going to take you 6 months to complete your certification. That's okay. But we want you to do a group anyway, so you can group them up and get them done. So you could do 1 person and 2 groups of 3s, that would work. You can do a husband and wife, for example. If you want to do a couple, you still use the scripts for the individual person. 2 people is not a group. So if you're doing 2 people together, you will be following the scripts for an individual, but 3 or more people, you switch and you use the template, the checklist, and the scripts for a group. All right. So however you work out the math and how you're going to structure it and do it, that's what you need to decide over the next couple of weeks. So I'll be sending you 2 separate invitations to put out to people. One invitation is inviting somebody to work with you one-on-one, and one invitation is for inviting people to participate in a group experience with you. And the invitation is completely laid out. It shows them everything. They see it all. They know exactly what they are committing to. So please, all of you, do not invite people to participate in this. Send them the invitation and let them self-select. I'm going to tell you guys, if you want to be frustrated in doing your level 2, the frustration will come from telling people that you think they should do this, and then they come into it and it's like, I don't want to do this and this is too much of a commitment. They've got to read the invitation, because the invitation shows them the commitment and they have to agree to the commitment. And then you're less likely to have some attrition. Because it really sucks if you've planned for your 6 people and then person number 5, all of a sudden grandma's gotten sick and they've got to go stay with her in Manitoba and they don't finish the program. Okay, so for that reason, because we can't, because stuff happens, right, to people, and there's different reasons why they might fall out of the program, I'm going to encourage you all to absolutely invite more people into your group than you need to have. So if you decide you're only going to do 1 individual in a group of 5, get 7 people into that group. That way, if you have any attrition, you're still going to be able to finish on time and you'll be able to complete your certification. Does that make sense? So all you really need to look at in regards to level 2 is going to be the invitations that I send out. It's very self-explanatory. And then you need to decide how you're going to invite people, meaning, are you going to do it on Facebook? Do you have an organization you belong to that you are going to present this to them and say, hey, I need to do this? And so some people, like Adina, for example, is in network marketing and she has a team. Adina might decide to go to her team and say, okay, I'm going to need 7 people to do this. Or Adina might decide not to go to her team and go outside of her team and invite people so that when she is certified, she can bring the process into her team as part of her team building versus using her team as trial clients. All right. So you guys decide, it's going to be up to you guys to decide where it is that you want to pull, your people from and how you're going to get that invitation to them. So typically people email it out to a group of people, right? And then let people self-select. So the self-selection is really important. So the main responsibilities, again, for you is that you're going to be doing these 4 separate calls with them using the scripts. This is you're guiding them through the process just as if they've come to one of my workshops. They will be considered a graduate of the Sacred Gifts program when they finish doing this with you. You're really giving them the full meal deal, okay? But they do all the work. It's great because they have to listen to all the audios. They got to complete the sheets. They got to do the score sheet, they got to do the assessment, and then you take your script and it's like, okay, so pull out your looking for clues worksheet and Bob, what did you answer to question number 2, right? Like you're kind of facilitating the discussion afterwards, but really it's them that does all the work, and that's why it's important that they understand what they're committing to. The other responsibility you have is that you guys really need to be comfortable with that audio program. So you need to know what they've listened to and what they're doing in that segment so that you can follow the script and make sense to you. Now, most of you have actually you guys are so different than the other group on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, not one single person's been to my workshop, and there's 12 of them in there. They've all only been exposed to the program through the audio program. But Mary, Kathy, Randy, Estelle, you guys have all been through the workshop, right? So you've got to make sure you guys are really in tune with the audio program, because that's not how you did the program. Adina, you only know the audio program. You don't even know what the workshop is, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so your responsibility is to really understand that audio program. Your responsibility is also to remind yourself and your clients that you are in training and you're doing this for the first time and you are not functioning as a life coach, okay? You're just following the system and learning how to do this. So let me see what else I need to tell you. How long it takes you to complete your level 2 training, like I mentioned, is going to be determined on how you end up structuring it. So if you decide you're going to do 3 separate individuals and then you're going to do a group of 3 to make your 6, or a group of 5 to make sure in case anybody falls out, It may take you a bit longer to complete. There is no time frame. There's no deadline to complete your level 2 people. So our training spans 14 weeks, right? But the time that you take to finish up, it's okay if it goes beyond that 14 weeks. And it may, if you end up doing a few individuals kind of back to back and then your group. But if you want to get done in a reasonable amount of time, I would say do at least one individual or a couple together, and then do your group, and then you're done. You've had both experiences, you're done. Now, the people in level 1 cannot count as your 6 minimum, okay? But you can invite them into the process and you can put them into your group, but just know they aren't going to count as the 6. So here's what some of the guides do. They do one individual, or they might do 2 individuals. They do a group of 4 brand new people, sacred gift virgins, and then they may add one extra brand new person, so that if somebody falls off, right, they've got enough. But then they may add 2 or 3 people from their level 1 who were really keen to know more. They might put them into a group. Or some of them take all of their level 1 people through the process separately on their own. It doesn't count towards your certification, but it gives them a lot of practice. It helps you guys get more practice. So how you structure it is up to you. If you have people in level 1 that you don't want to take through level 2 because they're not going to count, then what you would, and they want to do the program, then you would refer them either back to us, and they would purchase the program from us, and we pay you $50 of that program back to you, or you could send them to another guide or whatever. I don't know why you would not want to take them through, or you can charge them. Once you're certified, you can go back to those people and say, look, I've finished and there is a more comprehensive process and I want to take you through it, and here's what I charge to do that. So you have that option as well. The invitations, what you're going to need to do when I give you those invitations is you're going to need to go through them, and you're going to need to decide when you do a group, you've got to put the dates in ahead of time before you send the invitation out to them, exactly what the dates are going to be of the weekly calls for your group, so that they know when they say yes to this, that they can actually attend a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Don't send out the invitation, hey, let me know if you're interested and what day works for you, because you're going to have 5 or 6 people and they're all going to have different days, right? They're going to be like, oh, Saturday morning at 10, Tuesday at 8. What you do in your group invitation is you will pre-decide what works for you. Okay, that's the only way you can do it, is what works for me is Thursdays at 3 in the afternoon. Then you send your invitation with that information in it, and now they know that that's the time that you've got, and then they can say yes or no. All right. Now, if all of them get back to you saying, oh, I really want to do this, but I can't do Tuesday at 7, and they all say no because the time you picked, okay, then you may decide to select something else. That doesn't typically happen. Usually, if you send it out to enough people, you're going to get the response you need that say yes to the time frame you've chosen. So for this reason, before your group invitation goes out, you need to fill it in and send it to me. I want to see it first with the dates filled in of exactly what you're going to be doing with your group, and then I give it the okay, and now you send it out. All right. And all I'm going to ask you to do when you send that group invitation back to me to look at it, and this will be in your homework assignment on the Facebook. You don't have to remember all this, but when you send it back to me, exactly the way it's going to look when you send it out to people, I want those dates highlighted in bright yellow or something that they really pop out, because the most important thing is that these people understand they are committing to you these time frames, and they need to put that in their calendar right away. Because you guys getting certified is dependent on them staying compliant to the program. All right, so it is a big commitment, and that's why you let the invitation do the talking, and it will work. If you start saying, hey, would you help me out and be in this group, it's not going to work. If you get really stuck and you don't have enough people, let me know, but this is a last resort, because I don't want to be spending my time filling your groups. But if you were really stuck and you really needed one more person, or you really wanted somebody in your group that you don't know at all, and you want to have the experience of working with somebody, individual, maybe an individual that you really don't know and have any connection to, ask your friends for support on that. But if you're really stuck and you need that, I can usually find very easily, I'll put a post on Facebook and like 30 people will say, pick me, right? So it's not hard to find people. You can post the invitation on Facebook. I wouldn't suggest posting the whole thing, but you could post a little paragraph of telling them what you need, and then if they're interested, then you send them the invitation. I think that's about it. I'm just going to check through this. We've covered all that. Okay, so I think that's it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to send you the, let me just go to your assignment for this week. Okay, so next week, you're going to need to come back to the call with ideas on how you want to structure your level 2 training. So just come back with ideas. You don't have to have all the people picked or anything, but just have an idea of what you think you want to do. Do you want to do one individual in a bigger group? Do you want to do one individual and 2 smaller groups because that's more comfortable for you? The bigger the group, the more management of it takes. And if you don't have the gift of facilitation, the bigger groups can be a bit challenging. But, and when I say challenging, it's just, and the script will guide you through. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be challenging because the script will take you through it. It may not be as enjoyable for you if you don't have the gift of facilitation and you don't really like group work, but it doesn't matter. The script will take you through it anyway. So remember that I want to see the invitation before you send it out to people. That's the group invitation. The individual one, I don't really need to see it because you're going to decide with the individual when the best times are to do the calls. So that's going to be between you and them. But for the groups, I really want to see it before it goes out. I'll be posting the invitations in the Facebook group as well as sending them to you in email. Okay, so I'll send them to you. So for this week, you're going to do another level 1 client interview, and you're going to continue working towards finishing your level 1. You're going to follow up on any missing evaluations. You don't need to ask me, did I get an evaluation? If I got it, I've sent it to you. If you don't have the evaluations on your level 1 people, it's because they haven't sent them to me. So you've got to follow up with them. You're going to listen to the audios on the 2 sacred gifts, service and planning are the 2 gifts we're going to do next week, service and planning. And you're going to come back to the call next week with what your plans are for level 2. And if you have a plan and if you are ready to fill in the blanks on that group invitation with the dates, you're going to send it to me to look at. And then once your invitation is approved, I'll let you know, and then you can start sending it out. So it's not essential that your invitation goes out this week. I want you to know that. I'd rather you spend more time, just kind of getting a plan together of how you think you want to structure it, than really focusing on having to send it out this week. You don't have to. But after your next call, you will have to, okay? Did I tell you guys that we were taking a break between calls 6 and 7? Do you remember? Okay, all right, good. I think because the last group, there was some over Christmas, so we took a 1-week break. I have scheduled it into, I've scheduled 15 calls or 15 weeks for this program, I think. I'm going to go back and count them as to what you were told, but I think I actually scheduled 15 to allow for a 1-week break. And the reason I like doing that is because it lets everybody get finished up and caught up on level 1 before we move into level 2. It gives you a chance to get your invitations out there and get everything kind of organized. But I'll take a look and see what it is that I had told you. And I've done it both ways. It'll work out fine. So this was call number 5. So you're not going to start working with clients in level 2 until call number 7. All right, so you've got a couple of weeks to get yourself organized, get those invitations out. Okay, and lastly, if you're listening to the recording, again, you're going to need to submit your written debriefs on your clients, make sure that you're keeping up and make sure you're letting me know exactly where you're at in the program. So that's pretty much it. It's all going to be laid out for you guys, okay? So it's a lot of information, but you're all going to move through it step by step, just like you did in level 1, no problem. All right, so any questions?
I have a question, Monique.
Yes, Kathy.
You mentioned that we can post on Facebook and abbreviated. So how would that work? We would just do an abbreviation, and if they're interested, send them the whole invite?
That's right. So it would be, that's right. So it would be a brief thing like, I'm currently training to become a Sacred Gift certified guide. I'm looking for some volunteers to be my trial clients. The process spans over 4 weeks or 3 weeks. The process spans over 3 weeks. I have a very detailed layout of it. If this is something that interests you, please message me, and then they'll message you, and then you send the invitation. So they're going to need to see the invitation before they decide. You're just posting enough to kind of capture their attention. They must be Sacred Gift versions, and you've got to check that out. So, for example, we have some people in training that are part of Make Your Mark training. Some of them are part of Peak Potentials training. They know each other. They post something, people reply, but they've already taken the course with me years ago, or they've already done it and they kind of want to revisit it. You can take them in your group, but they will not count as part of your 6. Okay, so you must have 6 Sacred Gift virgins. All right.
Okay for me to do that for level 1 too, if I.
Oh, sure.
If
yeah.
I'm hearing crickets.
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Oh, yeah, of course you can. Yeah, for sure, no problem.
I hope to do that, but didn't know if it was kosher.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course you can. Yeah, you just mentioned that you're recertifying is what you just mentioned that you're recertifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, good. So we'll wrap it up there. And then everything now is going to be sent to you, like I say, the emails, and then go back to the group. Things will be posted in the group. It's all going to be there step by step of what you need to do next. Good?
Good.
All right. Yay, exciting. All right, you guys, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.